It's a Wednesday morning on eRadio and it's time for Legal Talk. One of my favorite attorneys on the line this morning to talk about cyber crimes. She's an associate attorney at Hahn Attorneys and her name is Merilynn Plessis. A very big hello to you, Merilynn.
A very big hello to you too, Ian. Always lovely when I speak to you.
And always lovely when I speak to you. It's like the sun
Thank
just
you.
came out.
We need some.
Yes, exactly. But always very interesting, our topics, the topics that you prepare for us to talk about. And today is a quite a big one, cyber crimes. Ooh. Yeah, that's a big one. So do you specialize in cyber crimes?
So we need to remember that the Cyber Crimes Act it's very young. So it's only been promulgated in December. So, at the moment there hasn't been much enforcement, if I can say it as such, just because it's very young. And then, cyber crimes, it correlates with a lot of other acts. So, yes, you do. I mean, you'd recall a few weeks ago we had the discussion on defamation.
Yeah.
And it fits very nicely into defamation and, for instance, the Protection of Personal Information Act. So it helps complement and assist on those type of acts.
Okay. Now, let's start off with an overview of the Act. Can you give us one?
Yes, so very important before we start discussing the Cyber Crimes Act. As I said, it's very young. It's only been promulgated last year. So at the moment, not all of the parts of the Act are enforced yet. So the main parts of the Act, if I could say, deals with first your offences, and then it deals with your penalties. It deals with your state's duties, and then obligations of certain institutions. So one of the things that must be implemented is a point of contact within SAPS for international cooperation. The other, and I'll deal with this later, but the other aspect that still needs to be enforced is monitoring and investigation and reporting of certain organizations. So at this moment, your penalties and your offenses are in place.
Okay. And Merilynn, what does the Act criminalise?
Okay, so this is the very interesting part of the Act. The Act criminalizes nine actions. So there's 9 types of actions. 10 actions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly mention the crimes, the offences, and then I'll give some examples, interesting examples to illustrate them.
Okay.
So what should always be remembered is when we speak about something being criminalized, the first 2 things that you always look at is whether it's unlawful and intentional. So I won't be repeating that. So everything I say, it must first be unlawful and then intentional. When I say unlawful, the easiest way to remember is that there's no ground of justification for doing it, which will become clear when I start explaining the offences. Okay, so the main offences would be relating to access, interception, interference, possession, and then we would have its own offence regarding passwords and access codes. Then we have cyber fraud, forgery, extortion, theft, and then the last is intimate images and messages that incites damage. Okay, so let's start with the first one is access. So the Act holds that it is obviously unlawful and intentional to access data, and I'm going to stop there. So here it correlates with POPI, the Protection of Personal Information Act. Now, interesting, POPI doesn't criminalize any offences under POPI under the Act. So you've only got civil remedies. You can go to a court and you can have monetary. Now the cybercrime has now introduced a criminal offense for access to data. So when we speak about data, it's information, data on your computers, but nevertheless. So access to data, a computer program, a computer data storage medium, and that's things like your USB and your hard drives, or a computer system. The second one is interception of data. So not just accessing it, but also interception would include acquiring or viewing, capturing or copying data of a non-public nature. The next one would be interfering with data or with a computer program, a computer storage medium, or computer system. So you'll always see those threads: data, computer program, computer storage medium, and a computer system. So that covers your basis for kind of everything that you use on a computer. And then, very interesting, the Act criminalizes the possession or even the use of hardware or software to commit any of these offenses. Okay. And then the next is an offense that applies to passwords and access codes. And this includes secret pins or codes, biometric data, and images used for financial transactions or user authentication. So we're looking at your banking apps, etc. The next offense would be cyber fraud, cyber forgery, cyber uttering, and cyber extortion. I'll give these examples now. Then the next one is theft of incorporeal property. And then the last is the supply, the broadcast, and this comes in with our defamation case that we had. Supply, broadcast, or distribution by means of a computer or a data message of an intimate image of an identifiable person, or that incites damage to property or violence to a person or groups of persons. So it's kind of broad. So let's give some very nice, interesting examples of access to data, and that was the first offense that we tackled. So this would be typically hacking. The first example is called clickjacking. So this is, they call it the bait and switch hacking technique, where an attacker can buy advertising spaces. So, when you go onto the internet or Facebook, those advertising spaces pops up. And then when you click the ad, by clicking it, you become infected with malware.
Yeah.
Okay, the second one is cookie theft. So where somebody accesses your cookie, he can authenticate himself as you on a browser. And then this was very, very interesting to me as well, is it's called a UI redress. So this is where the hacker hides the actual user interface. And when I say that, let's say you go onto a page and, there is screens, pages, and then, like buttons and icons. And what they do is that they change the routing. So when you think you are pressing a like button, for instance, or a post button, you are actually giving access to the hacker.
Yeah.
So he deceives you by making you think that you are clicking a certain button, and it actually then takes you to something else. And then other examples of viruses, Trojans, and phishing. And then I'm not sure if you're aware of the keylogger technique. So this is where it used to be only be done with hardware, which is something external that you would put onto your computer. But now they've become sophisticated. It's actually now a simple software, and this records the key sequence and the strokes of your keyboard. onto a log. Yes. So they imitate everything that you say, and as such they learn your passwords.
Yeah, especially for the banking.
And then use it against you.
Mm-hmm. That's very scary.
Yes, very scary. Okay, so that is your first one. Then your second one was your interception of data. It's very important to note that even viewing data is a criminal offense. So if you acquire, you view, you capture, you divert, or you copy data so that you make it available to anybody who's not authorized to have that data is guilty of an offense. And even a person who possesses this data and knows that the data is unlawfully intercepted is guilty of an offense. And then furthermore, even if there's a reasonable suspicion that the data was intercepted unlawfully, and the person that has that cannot give a satisfactory explanation, will also be guilty of the offense.
Oopsie.
So, yes, a caution to employers and, more employees and third parties is, any data that gets copies or transferred or viewed without authorization will be guilty of an offense. Okay, then we move on to the next one. It's interference with data, a computer program, computer storage medium, or computer system. So this would be where you interfere, you alter, you delete, you obstruct, you interrupt, you deny access. I'm not sure if you've heard of the denial of service attacks.
DOS, yes, that's right.
Yes, so that's one of them. That's the next way, and then another attack is ransomware. And then your next one is your unlawful acts in respect of software and hardware. So anyone who uses or even possesses any software or hardware for the purposes of committing cybercrimes will be guilty of this offense. Then next, your passwords, your acquisition, your possession, provision, receipt, or use of a password. So here, anyone who acquires, possesses, provides, or uses a password to commit a cybercrime is guilty of offense. This includes secret code and image, a security token, access card, etc. So even when they share, sharing a password or access code without any authorization will also become a cybercrime. The last lot would be cyber fraud. So this is where a person makes a misrepresentation through data, which causes actual or potential prejudice to another. So this includes identity theft, social engineering, hijacking, and phishing attempts. And caution should be taken, for example, for the email addresses. Simple spelling mistakes and grammars to avoid such attacks. And then the other one is, the next one is cyber forgery and uttery. This is where people make false data or a false computer system to the actual or potential prejudice of the person. So this is where cyber criminals create fake banking websites that requires the users to place passwords, and then the criminals take your passwords and actually use them.
Merilynn, that is, sorry to interrupt you there, but that is very, very scary, and it happens. I know that one of the banks, Capitec, actually had a case like that where somebody posed as the bank, and then, you go to these sites that they give you the link to, and it looks like the actual bank. Everything about it, the logo is there, everything. And meanwhile, it's not.
So like I said again, the quickest way to pick that up is simple grammar and simple, when you go and look at your HTTP address on top.
Yeah, on the certificate.
It would be by one simple alteration. And, for instance, I know of attorneys, a lot of attorneys are being attacked, for instance, where they send you a transfer and they say you must make your payment, etc. And it's your client's name, but only one little letter has changed.
You see.
And you fall for it. So as I said, attention must be taken to small little mistakes and email addresses.
Yeah, it's easy to fall for it, especially, let's say you're having a really busy day and you don't have time to, read.
Yes.
You don't have time to read everything and stuff, and you just go by what you see
click,
at first glance. Yeah, then it's so easy to fall into that pit.
Yes, a caution, and I'd really like to say that, there should be more knowledge about these things so that it remains top of mind in everything that you do.
Well, that's why we're doing this.
Yes, that's it. Okay, so now, and then we've also deal with cyber extortion. So this is where where somebody uses a threat of a commission of a cybercrime against somebody to gain an advantage. So this would be blackmail and cyberbullying. We've seen recently a case where one of our South Africans had a romance scam and scammed somebody from overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And started cyber extorting them by threatening them to post, their pictures in their posts in the media, etc. Yes, and then the second last one is theft of incorporeal property. So, when you go onto a website and they talk about copyright, and, when you go and read all these fancy things, the website terms and conditions, they tell you that you're not allowed to alter or delete or use those things. So once you do anything like that, it now becomes a cybercrime. Okay, and then interestingly, when a restricted computer system, such as financial institutions, which is like you mentioned, the banks or state institutions, they actually have a specific section for it, and they've called it an aggravated offense. So by hacking those institutions, you'll be penalized much, much stronger than anything else. And then the last one is the malicious communications. And this, once again, falls in with our defamation. We see community groups on Facebook making pages, fighting for public interest. And you see the people saying this one must fall and that one must fall. And, and we all think it's patronage, but the effect of that is that you're inciting violence. I mean, the next person, if that person walks onto the street, what you are doing is you are inciting the public to act against that person. Exactly. And, Facebook, we've become so verbal on Facebook. So this has now become a crime. And, these riots that we saw in KwaZulu-Natal, that's a prime example of them.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
Any message. So, and I'm talking about WhatsApp, and I'm talking about Facebook, and through email. So any supply, broadcast or distribution, once again, and it was like we said with the defamation, if you send a message, you will also be liable for this offense. So when you incite damage to property or violence to a group of person or to a person, you'll be guilty of this offense. And then the last one is those disgruntled ex-boyfriend and ex-girlfriends.
Oh, that's dangerous.
That broadcast or sends pictures of an intimate image of that person.
Yeah, or as it's known, a naughty image.
Yes, so I think that's very welcome for everybody.
Merilynn, what penalties are we looking at? Can you actually go to jail for any of these offences?
Yes, you can. So at the moment, short and sweet, you can either be convicted and charged with a fine or imprisonment for up to 15 years.
15 years.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, depending on the cyber crimes. And then obviously parts of the Act which is not yet in force is if you commit one or two, I mean, there is a possibility, for instance, that you acquire data, which is an offence, and you're using hardware, which is another offence. You'll have accumulative offences.
Oh, my word. But Merilynn, just a quick question. What if I did it and I had no idea that I was doing something wrong? I'm innocent.
So remember I said to you in the beginning, when we talk about crime, you always have to prove the unlawful and intentional.
But what if it wasn't intentional?
Well, you would have to, if it was, and I mean, we've dealt with aspects where people have data in their possession that they shouldn't have, and I'm gonna give you one such example. Older people, they don't really know how to use their passwords or banking apps, and nephews and nieces and daughters all have their information. They have that information, and it's not intended to be used. As long as you have a satisfactory reason for that, you won't be committed. You won't be guilty of an offence. And as I said, at this moment, it's very the trying of the cases is new. So At the end of the day, a person would look at negligence. I mean, were you negligent? Is it something that you should have known was unlawful? And that would be, you'd come off with a lighter fine. But where in those cases where you can give an exculpatory statement, which explains why you have it and excludes your intention, you won't fall into the hot water.
Okay, wow, that's very interesting. What is the state's duties in all this?
Okay, right. So this is one of the parts that is not in force yet. So at the moment, should a complainant have an issue, a person would have to approach the police and lodge a complaint or open a docket as usual. But when these parts are in effect, the National Director of Public Prosecutions is supposed to be monitoring the statistics of the number and the results of the prosecutions of cyber crimes. And then the Act gives the police service extensive powers to investigate, search, access, and seize articles such as a computer, a network, and in that, foreign states will actually also have to cooperate in the investigation of the crimes. And then, very importantly, is that the Minister of Police has to establish and maintain a point of contact for cyber crimes. So there would be one designated point of contact for all reporting of cyber crimes, and I welcome that one.
Okay, and then so now we move on to reporting obligations in the public.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So also very welcome your electronic communication service providers. So MTN, and it stretches very far to any provider that gives electronic communication services.
Okay, so your ISP as well, your internet service provider.
Your internet service provider, your hosts, your clouds, your everyone.
Wow, okay.
They have an obligation together with financial institutions, like you said, Capitec. They they are obliged to report to the police no later than 72 hours after the incident, and then they have to preserve the information for the investigation. However, unfortunately, this is not yet in force, but it most will be welcomed, because especially when you look at, all of these things happen over the network. We've seen like the denial of access attacks. That's actually where they bombard a network, and they traffic. They put the traffic so much so you most likely trace it through your electronic communication service providers.
Yeah, they bombard it and then it just bombs out completely. We've seen that before with a few websites, some big websites going down because of those attacks, eh? Yes. So no, the Cyber Crimes Act is welcomed and it's about time. Okay, well, that's cyber crimes in a nutshell for today. Merilynn, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, maybe they feel that they are a victim of cyber crimes, or maybe they're worried that they are busy committing one, how can they get in touch with you?
So they're welcome to contact us on 012-431-24080. We also have a website, hahnlaw.co.za. And I'm also available at Merilynn at hahnlaw.co.za.
Okay, Merilynn, yes. And that is spelled Merilynn.
Y-double-N. That's right.
At Hahn Law, that's Hahn Law.
That's right. And especially employers.
Yeah.
Because I would say that the greatest dangers is your employees. Employees need to be made aware that by looking onto a colleague's computer, that may amount to a crime.
You see, we don't know this.
We don't know that, and that's the thing is so to create awareness and I would say to have your policies in place with your employees and your employers is vital.
Definitely, and make sure they're aware of it. I'm so glad that we're raising awareness, Merilynn. We should do a follow-up at some stage as well, because this is a very broad topic, and maybe we can zero in on one of the specific cyber crimes. But today it's kind of a general overview of the cyber crimes. And as you said, relatively new here in South Africa.
Yes, definitely.
Well, thank you so much. This was very insightful, and thank you for your time, Merilynn. It's always great chatting to you.
Same, thank you. Always a pleasure, Ian.
Are you or your business in trouble and struggling to find a solution? Call Hahn & Hahn Attorneys as we assist clients in finding solutions. We specialize in consumer and food law, commercial and construction law, forensic investigations and administrative law. Visit hahnlaw.co.za. That's HAHN. We assist clients nationwide. Hahn & Hahn Attorneys, because we care. Don't miss Legal Talk with Hahn & Hahn Attorneys, Wednesday mornings at 10 on eRadio.